everybody on YouTube. We've been talking to people on Discord for a moment now, and now you guys can see everybody. Well, you can see us. And
Hello.
yeah, so how you guys doing out on the YouTubes? We're here in the politics server, flat Earth age area, whatever you want to call it. We're here. We're here with people, and we're talking about flat Earth and why it's important to our guests. We're gonna have our guests raise their hands up. They're gonna take the stage. We're gonna talk to you about why it's important to you, and kind of go down that line of thinking. So, David, you got anything to say before I hand it over to AJ and Crypt?
I like what you did with the YouTube channel. I see that you put the logo in there. It looks clean. I like it. And everybody check out our YouTube channels so that we can eventually do this, have you up on stage beside Mr. Beast and Jordan Peterson. So, let's all support it. And then we'll have you there with us.
We're gonna do some Spectrum SE with Peterson and Mr. Beast.
Yeah.
That'd be something.
Just ContraPoints, anything. Anybody who wants to come on, we'll have them.
All right. AJ, I think you wanted to say some words before we actually get started here.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, guys. And welcome Pierce and 2-Day David to the politics server, and in particular 24/7 Flat Earth stage. Anybody out there listening in YouTube land, please feel free to jump into the politics server and come and have a chat, with Pierce and David. That's what they're here for.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
There should be a link in the description. All right, I guess without further ado, we will be taking people up on stage. So you can raise your hand. If you're on PC, you can right click. If you're on mobile, probably at the bottom or something. Hey, somebody figured it out.
Yeah. Ah.
Hey, what's up? Thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate the open discussion and forum here. Very great to see. I'm curious, how do you think, whether or not a flat Earth or globist, how does this impact our daily life? Thank you.
How does this impact our daily life? That's a good question. And I would like to ask you that question as well. But since you asked it, I'd be more than happy to answer. For me, I don't think it does too much. It might be my perspective. Because of that, I probably don't put a lot of stock into that. But I'm not so sure if I believed that the Earth was globe or flat, I'm not sure what I would actually do differently. So I guess that's why I don't put I don't think I'd behave differently or anything, so I don't think it's vitally important.
Yeah. In similar ways.
Yeah, oh, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. In similar ways, I think I'd probably behave in mostly similar ways. If there is some kind of giant misinformation campaign, I'm sure there are 200 other misinformation campaigns that also exist in the world. So it's not like the powers that be don't want power, no matter what the way they do it. So it's like I'm still just some guy. So I'd still care about the people I talk to. I'd still, eat, sleep, be merry if I can, and I don't know. I'd probably, have a lot different merchandise. All my Globe Earth stuff would look way different than. I'd have to buy a whole lot of new stuff.
Well, I appreciate the response. Thank you. I'll leave the stage now.
Oh no! What about you? What about you?
Oh, you want to bring my question back on me?
Yeah,
if you want.
If you don't mind answering, that'd be great.
No, I would generally agree with you guys in regards to whether or not it's flat. Doesn't really impact my daily life. It depends, though, on things like GPS. right?
Mhm.
And I know there's some arguments on whether or not GPS is designed by people who believe in a globe or people who believe in a flat Earth. Um, I do think GPS tends to affect my daily life, but I don't know exactly how they designed it or how it operates scientifically, whether or not it's flat or globe.
Sure. I guess you don't really need to know how it works to make use of it and utilize it. So I guess that might be kind of a mute point. It doesn't really matter how
Well,
you
I
use it.
just in regards to the fact that it's called global positioning system.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
Hmm. So you might like call it something different.
I mean, you could.
DPS.
Okay.
Done. Let's start marketing it.
Anyway, thanks again, guys. I'm gonna give the floor to someone else.
Okay.
Appreciate
Sure.
you coming
No
on.
problem. Yeah. All right.
It's a fun name, Space Booties. I like that.
You would.
I would.
All right. Well, one down. Who's the next man up? Or woman,
Mhm.
you know. Man, alien, anything else really. Doesn't matter. Child. But hopefully not a child.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully not.
We have no hands at the moment, guys.
Don't.
AJ
No,
Crit,
but
why don't you tell us a little
maybe
about?
I can help.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say
Go
maybe
ahead.
I can help you out. Yeah. So, why is flat Earth important to me? That's the question? Yes.
Question.
Yeah. For me, look, I've always questioned what I've been told. I haven't always believed a lot of things from face value, and this started for me back in school. Yeah, my teachers probably hated me questioning everything that I was taught and told. And for me, the flat Earth was brought up, and obviously, I had the same reaction that most people do. Started talking about curving water, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, I did my investigations, and this is where I ended up. And for me, it's about the truth, yeah. And I feel that, once you realize that you've been lied to on this scale, it also helps you think more critically about other situations that arise or other things that we're taught or told. Um, So for me, basically, I want to try and find the truth. I want to dig to the bottom of this stuff and know that I have the truth. Now, how that changes my daily, day-to-day life, really, yeah. I've made some really good friends in the flat Earth rooms in 24/7. I've made some good globe friends as well out of these conversations. Um, space booties just brought up in regard to GPS stuff like that. Well, answer that. Yeah. So regardless of whether we're on flat surface or on a globe, we can see that these things work in the same way. Yeah, I suppose if that makes any sense. Nothing's going to change on that aspect. I mean, we see it working every day in reality. But yeah, for me, truth.
Okay. Truth seems to be like on the top of your list, the kind of the most
Yeah,
important part of it.
yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Okay. What is it about truth that is so important?
It's a tough question, but I don't like dishonesty. Yeah, I don't like dishonest people. I feel like that if I've been lied to by someone, and or let's just say a body of people, then it starts to show distrust for me. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, I think that
Yeah.
truth is very important.
It sounds like what's underlying the truth, the kind of your need to want the truth is kind of like a value of honesty. Like you want people to be genuine with you, tell you, not try to
Yeah,
mislead you.
yeah. Look, and I consider myself to be an honest person. I um, always try and help people out. I always think about other people before myself, even strangers. Yeah. But where that usually leads me is to being used or not being treated the way that I'm treating others. And
Mm.
I definitely don't want people to be dishonest and lie to me about certain situations. And I suppose that just expands out into all these other areas.
Okay. So it seems like there's kind of you think there's like a correlation between dishonesty and people being mistreated. That kind of goes hand in hand.
From my experience, yeah, my wife always tells me stop thinking that these people are going to be honest or treat you the way that you treat them. Yeah, and that's the trap I always fall in. I say, no, this guy's a good dude. I wouldn't do that to them, so they wouldn't do that to me. And fortunately, most of the times they do.
Is there a distinction between, like, let's say someone's genuinely mistaken about something, and they're trying to convince you that they're right, but they don't know they're wrong, and someone who's trying to convince you of something that's true, but they don't actually believe it themselves. They think something else is true.
So is there a so there's a difference between someone who's just being dishonest and someone who appears to be dishonest because they truly believe what they're stating. Is that was the question? Yeah, I
Yeah.
think there is. Yeah, I think there is. I think that, however, it becomes difficult when that person has that worldview or that view that they have, and they're not willing to listen or take in anything else, and they're stuck on that view. Yeah, regardless of the evidence that's presented in opposition. Yeah, I think that most flat earthers are open minded. Yeah, that's how we got to where we are, by actually listening to what other people have to say and then going out and trying to investigate this in reality for ourselves, rather than just hand waving, dismissing, or just sticking to the narrative that we've been taught.
Gotcha. What's the best way to figure out if someone's being uh, genuine and they actually believe this and they're trying to convince you or something, or if they're really just kind of lying to you and trying to like maybe manipulate you, or where they're not being genuine.
I suppose in reality, that's time, yeah, and the discussions that you have with people, the time you spend with people, and their actions. In on the flat Earth side of things, again, we have people that come in and we listen, that come in and listen, and look, we don't want to change anyone's mind. It's just about offering up an alternative and some information for them to go and look at for themselves and investigate for themselves. It's up to them to satisfy that, whether they're in error and holding to a belief, or whether they're willing to investigate further. But most people that we deal with, we find, there's no real logical process behind it. We get the question, well, why would they lie? Or why wouldn't we just believe that, all these people, the government, etc., are there to help us? Why wouldn't it? It's like they, regardless of the evidence that's presented, they can't comprehend it. Now, whether that's being dishonest or whether they, again, truly believe what they're stating, sometimes that's hard to know. There's some that I believe are being dishonest, and I try not to deal with those people too much because we just go round in circles. And there's others that I've spoken to that, they do hold that belief. But when you do have a logical discussion with them, they will concede to points and say, hey, yeah, that's a really good point. I may need to look into that further. So I would say that the anti-flat earthers that come into our rooms are probably the ones that are being more dishonest generally.
Mhm.
And they're the people I try not to engage with too much, because the conversation is the same every time. It's the same argument over and over again. It doesn't seem to go anywhere. It just gets very frustrating.
I wonder, is there is there a distinction between dishonesty and, excuse my language here, and jackassery?
My belief is if someone is being dishonest purposefully, whether they're being a jackass or whether they're just being dishonest, then I don't see a difference, yeah. Especially if we've
Okay.
got people in the room that are trying to have a genuine discussion. You have those troll type people come in, or even in real life, yeah, it doesn't really matter.
If
I think
Johnny,
that's a
if
bit
we
of
had,
cog dis.
sorry, finish your thought.
So there's a bit of cog dis, yeah, where they maybe that's what we see with the trolls, yeah. They can see what we're saying, they don't have an answer, so they would rather come in and troll and try and make people look silly than have an honest conversation.
Yeah, they're let me introduce you to Johnny. So we met him on last week's show, and he was quite the fellow, right? He was a little bit aggressive. He was a little bit maybe even a little bit demeaning, and you know I guess could like are all people who are aggressive and kind of even mean, or really look down upon you, are all those people being dishonest, or could some of them actually be genuine with what they believe?
I think that some of them could be genuine with what they believe, but I think that if they are interested in the topic generally, then they would actually allow people to speak and have that conversation and critically think and maybe do some investigation for themselves. But from my experience, that can also be hard for people. Yeah, it seems to be that flat Earth is a very controversial topic. Um, I think taking away this narrative that people have believed from birth, there is some emotions that come into it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. How do we separate? Should we separate out the emotions? Should we try to pull those emotions out, or should we use the emotions? What do we do with the emotions?
Well, for us, look, well, for me personally, I try to have that genuine conversation with them. I try to say, we don't need to be emotional here. We're just trying to think logically and we can have this discussion. Now, sometimes as the conversation goes on, that will work and some people will actually have that conversation, but others won't.
Hmm. If someone is like really emotional about a particular topic that might be being discussed, and it could be flat Earth, it could be anything, right? I guess what's the best strategy for that? Should we address those emotions? Should we ignore them? Where do we go with that?
Well, I actually believe Crit is good at answering that question, yeah. And I have heard Crit myself basically state to these people, if we're affecting you that much, if this topic is affecting you that much that it's unsettling you, it's ruining your day, then please leave. Please go and enjoy your day. Believe what you need to believe. Don't come in here and let this topic ruin your day.
Yeah. Kind of set a boundary, say, or have them set a boundary for themselves. Say, if you want to avoid these negative feelings, then maybe there's another server that might be better suited for you. That's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. We're not here to upset anyone. We're just here to put out the truth, try and let people think logically and present the evidence. From there, it's up to them. But if they're that upset that we can't even go down that path and have a discussion, realistically, why are you here? Yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
I don't put myself in those situations. I don't go to globe earth rooms and start arguments and, try and be all upset because I don't want to ruin my day. I want to have good conversations with people. I want to put forward my position. And I want people to critically think about what we're discussing and come to their own decisions.
Um, I think what I would do, and I think your strategy is a good strategy. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I would probably take a slightly different route. I think I would address the feeling directly. I would say, hey, looks like you're getting really frustrated or angry, whatever it might be. And I'd say, hey, what's going on? What's behind that? What's going on here? And then chances are they'll probably give some sort of evaluation, like all you people are hating on me or something. And they ask like, hey, what's behind that? What's causing that sadness from everybody hating on you, or this person said this thing. Why is that affecting you? And I'd go down that route because I think we can really uncover some important stuff if we really look, just behind that feeling and see what's behind that. But no, I think your answer was terrific as well.
Yeah, and look, we do that sometimes. It really does depend on the person and how they enter the room and start the conversation, as to how
Sure.
the conversation goes, I suppose. We do have Space Booties again with his hand up. He might like to add something after our
Yeah,
discussion. Unless, yeah,
sure.
you're up, Space Booty.
Hey, thanks again, guys. It's been a great conversation so far. I really appreciate it. I did mention AJ. I think I heard you say something along the lines of people believing something that they were taught from birth. And I'm wondering if you have noticed any alignment within the flat Earth community in regards to belief in God.
Good question. Thank you. Look, there are flat earthers that believe in God, yeah? Now, some may be Christian, some may be Muslim, some, the scriptures, regardless of what they believe, whether it's, Christianity, Islam, etc., may have brought them to flat earth. But generally, what I hear is that people will logically come to the flat earth and then they will realize that there needs to be a creator. They realize that this flat earth is in these scriptures or these different religions, and it generally pushes them towards one of them. If it doesn't push them in the direction of one or the other, it definitely does push them to the belief that there needs to be some sort of creator. Oh, did Space Booties jump down? What happened there?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
jump down.
we're off topic on there too. Flat Earth, like when that topic is brought up, and it's a debate between somebody who believes in the Bible and they think the Earth is flat, somebody who believes in the Bible and they think the Earth is a globe. That's a losing debate for the flat earther. Because on the globe side, you've got things like a space Bible. Like they brought a Bible to the moon. They took communion on the way to the moon. Nixon said that God told him that God loves capitalism, so God will win, or America will win the space race. The current director of NASA, Bill Nelson, said God, out of the Bible, mind you, all these people are talking about God of the Bible, personally spoke to him to come out of retirement. Just last year, one of the astronauts wrote a book about finding space Jesus. So when when they say "Make America Great Again," they're talking about that high watermark of American exceptionalism of God and country, and that's why a lot of times in this debate you can't talk with someone who's a real QAnon person, because when they hear you talk about the Earth is flat, they've got a lot of egocentric, jingoistic worldview. How could the Earth be flat? Because America has conquered the stars. God bless America. And that's a losing argument because now they think that you're arguing against them and their belief system, their supernatural belief system, and they don't leave room for interpretation there.
It's definitely something you run into a lot in all sorts of different topics of people becoming personally invested in their beliefs, and by trying to discuss their belief, you're potentially discussing their credibility as a person, discussing their identity as a person, discussing. I mean, these things can be very personal when you talk about these things with people. And that's why I appreciate working with Pierce and you guys letting us come on and stuff like that, because I mean we're trying to take that into consideration.
For Space Booties, I'm a Christian, but my Christianity had nothing to do with flat Earth, if that answers the question. And Crit's right. Yeah, we generally don't talk about the religious topic in the rooms because it's not evidence either way. And it's definitely not evidence for someone who doesn't believe that literature, whether it be the Bible, the Quran, etc. Maybe it's an atheist or agnostic person. They're definitely not going to listen to anybody in regards to what the scriptures say. But yeah,
Flat Earth, like in Flat Earth, we try to be as inclusive as possible. All people, all ideas, all walks of life, all callings. So if someone were to say their flat Earth is based in a biblical worldview, that's extremely exclusive. We separate that, say, hey, that might be your flat Earth, but when we're talking about the Earth in the physical, natural world, it doesn't involve supernatural claims.
So I think what you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you're saying that like flat Earth is just a physical thing, physical truth of the universe, I guess, while a religion might not be a same type of physical truth. It's a different kind of truth. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Well, here's a good example. We on another server, we have it open for a lot of religious discussion.
Mhm.
And one of the guys was really all in on one of the speakers that the 7 days of creation specifically describes a geocentric flat cosmology. Like some of the things like there's day and night before the sun and the moon were created, type of thing. It goes into more detail, but just the quick idea. Time existed and day existed. So as he's talking to the globe guy, who's also a Christian, once they said, hey, could God make any type of world? Flat, round, square, circle. If he created the full universe where anything is possible, why couldn't he just have created a sphere Earth the same way? And then the flat earther, who was really built in on Genesis, decided, well, yeah, maybe Genesis is just a parable, like comparable to the work week. Like if God wanted to tell you how much work he put into making the universe, I worked Monday through Saturday, I took Sunday off. And then from there, he had to basically adapt either his ideas of what Genesis said or adapt what he said what flat Earth is. And when he found that contradiction, that flat Earth and the Bible contradicted each other, he said, yeah, I guess I'll go with the Bible now because God could do that. And that's why, but how would you ever adjudicate that in some sort of experimentation or experimental model? How would you test that? What God can or cannot do. So that way, on that server, it was okay because we talked a lot about your belief systems, and it's kind of like epistemology, street epistemology, but more watered down version. It has to do on that server talks more about like feelings and identities. Is more than just kind of like logical thinking process.
Gotcha.
Who says feelings and identities don't have logical things behind them?
Oh yeah, they can. That's why when you get that sort of Venn diagram, why I say it's similar to what you guys do.
Yeah.
AJ is on that server too, and he's heard me talk to these globalists who are very mad. They're very angry at flat earthers, and I'll tell them, living well is the best revenge. You think I've somehow harmed you by thinking the earth is flat. Go off and explore space. Let me read about you in the papers. You develop some sort of new food process, zero gravity tomato something or another. You get the last laugh. Go ahead.
We have Killer who keeps putting his hand up and down in the audience. Killer, do you want to come on stage?
He posted a question in the text chat. Maybe he's trying to get
It's so hard to
us
get
to look at that.
Here,
I'll just
I have
invite him to
go
speak.
around.
He's got his hand up again.
He says why U.S. Canada constantly lie against Russia and Siberia. Oh, Serbia. Sorry, Serbia.
Okay, Killer, before you start, if that's your question, we just want to stick to the topic. Yeah, why would flat Earth be important or unimportant? I suppose to yourself. I'm not sure where you stand, but we're not going to go off topic onto wars and topics that aren't important.
Thanks for bringing me on the stage. I'm sorry, like I think like we're gonna speak about like that my question, but like if you want, to stay on this topic, okay. Like to be honest, like I think it's not important at all, because if today, like we discovered like it's Earth round or Earth it's flat, that's not gonna change like anything in our daily life, like on the end of the day you will need to pay the rent, you will need to pay taxes, you will need to go to the job, like nothing gonna change, like even if you know like what shape it's Earth. That's my view.
Okay, I hear you. So, like, what you're saying is that you wouldn't change any of your daily behaviors. Everything would kind of stay the same except for that one particular thing.
Yeah, not me, like me personally, but like everybody on the planet, like our jobs, like what you guys doing, what I'm doing, what everybody else doing, like we all will need. Sorry for my English. We all will need to go to be like school teachers, to be like street cleaners, to be like engineers, like nothing in that sense, nothing will change,
Okay. I think I hear you. I'm wondering if that's true for everybody. Like, if someone came to the conclusion that the Earth was flat and that the government had been lying to everybody, or all the governments,
Okay.
or whatever. I'm not sure. Hypothetical here.
Yeah. Yeah.
You think that they could kind of change the way maybe they perceive government and maybe take actions based on that new perception?
Yeah, there is possibility of that. Like, yeah, like in that sense, like there is possibility, like something can like happen. Like people maybe will like want, like I don't know, to change their government because government are hide, something from them. Like possibility of that exists, but like on the end, like from like my view and the view like how like my people think, I think in that sense nothing will change. Because again, like even if we say like hypothetically Earth it's a flat, like me personally, I don't know what is the shape, like whole my life I'm teach it's a globe, and like me personally, like maybe it's a globe, but hypothetically if Earth it's a flat, like in my daily life and daily life of the people I know around me, nothing will change, but again, like probably for like somebody like somewhere in the world, like they will probably have like different experience than me. Maybe like maybe like there is be like a new like job opportunities, somebody who gonna go actually on like to how you say explore the edge of the earth, or like even if like edge don't exist, to explore like what is like like beyond like the part of the planet we know, we can say that maybe.
So what brings you to a flat Earth server to even kind of discuss this kind of thing if it doesn't have that importance to you?
To be honest, like I didn't even like read the name of the event, like I just see like it's epistemology, and like I think like you guys gonna speak about everything, like it's my problem, like I didn't read it, like it's a flat Earth,
Oh, sure.
I'm sorry for that.
No problem. I get it. Pierce, you got any questions for him?
Yeah,
No,
like
no.
let's take this negative. So you'd say flat Earth is not important to you. Let's phrase that as a positive statement. What, with regards to Earth and maybe the shape or something, what is important to you?
In the sense of the like Earth shape.
Yeah, like, yeah. Is there anything that's important in that sense, in that realm, in that ballpark?
There is two things. There is the, how to say that on the English, sense of the like everyday human life, and there is something that like everybody have, every human being like want to have like knowledge what is actually truth and what is not truth, you know. In sense of that, like yes, it's kind of important to know like what is actual truth, like every human being, like it's pursuing, or how to say on the English, truth, and like of course like everybody want to know like what's actually happening, if it's if it's earth round, or it's flat, like how, like even if it's flat, like why it's flat, how it's created, what things like that, but like when we speak purely through the human experience we right now experienced, like I think it's not important, because like what is important to you is to, like, I'm sorry, but like to have like a full belly, to be able to go on the job, to be able to like survive, you know what I mean. Like we are human, we as a humans, like we want to survive, to get like to new day, and like the shape of the planet, it's not important, like to survive, to to have like to move to next day, if I'm like like sorry for my English, like I try to explain like best I can.
Yeah, no problem. So I wrote down on my page truth, and then I circled it because I heard you say that quite a few times. And I think you may have explained this, but I'm going to ask anyways, just for clarity. Why is the truth important? Why is that valuable? Why is that important?
Oof, that's a good question. Because like I don't know, like through my look on the world, like every human, it's pursuing that, and like if we don't have truth, if we don't actually know what is happening, like what is the point of everything, like we're just gonna live in like one big lie, you know.
Could you
That's kind of
find
my sorry for interrupting.
could someone find importance or meaning in their life even if they were mistaken about something that is true?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely, we
Which one?
we seeing that like constantly, like everywhere, like all around the planet.
Gotcha. With regards to like finding meaning in your life versus finding what is true, which is more important?
Uh, to be honest, like I think it's like more important finding the meaning, like because like if you have the truth, what if truth is actually ugly, and people are not prepared to that truth, and so I think it's kind of better to have like meaning in your life than to like know like what is actually happening, and you're just gonna become depressed and lose like all meaning, and you like on and you're gonna end up like killing yourself or something like that, because you're living that life without the meaning.
I'll throw out a hypothetical for you. If in this
Okay.
hypothetical, the truth was actually really good, like it brought joy to everybody,
Okay.
would which would be more important in that circumstance? Would truth be more important or meaning?
If truth is good, then probably truth, yes.
Hmm. Okay. And if truth, I'm gonna change it up on you again. If truth is kind of neutral, it's not good nor bad in this hypothetical, then which is more
Mm,
important, truth or meaning?
I think meaning. I think in that moment, like I think meaning will be like more important to like person.
Okay. Which world do you think we live in? Is it the truth that the truth is bad, the truth is good, or the truth is kind of neutral? Maybe a mixture.
I To be honest, I think like we're living in the world where like truth is actually good.
Okay. Truth is good. Does that mean that you value truth more than the meaning then? In our world, in our real world?
in the world, like where in or like reality, I think like I'm kind of look to, more towards meaning, you know.
Okay.
Because
If
again, like we are human beings, we are like extremely how you say that, like oh, I'm sorry, sorry for my English, like I forget the word.
okay, you're doing great.
Uh, we having borders, like our mind having borders, and like we don't have capacity to understand like some things, you know. So it's like kind of like I think it's kind of better to having like meaning in your life
Gotcha.
in this reality, in this like reality of the living.
Because we can't understand certain things. Like
Yes.
even so, even if we can't understand things, I mean, we can definitely say I don't know. Right? That's an option, I would say, right?
I'm sorry.
Is if we don't know the truth, we can kind of just say, well, I don't know right now. I don't know what is true. That's an option to do for any of us,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
If we do that for when we honestly don't know, um, then then where are we putting truth versus meaning? Are we still leaning towards meaning?
Definitely, because like if you say okay, like I don't know what is the truth, you know, like I will want to have like meaning in my life, you know, like you can acknowledge okay, like I don't know what is happening, you know, but at least I will make, you know, like I will want to have like meaningful life.
If I were to bring up someone else on stage, I'm not gonna, but let's pretend I did, and they were like, man, I actually really value truth, meaning that can go out the window. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Why do you think they'd say that?
Again, like we are all human beings, we having different look on the world, you know, and like we all having how to say, like I think on the end, like the truth, it's like just one truth, you know, but like right now, like all of us, we having different truth, we having different look on the words and everything, you know. So I think it's actually like that's the reason why would they say it like that, you know, they having different truth right now than me, you know. I'm sorry, like I will give you example, you know, like for somebody, like I will like just like go like a little bit out of the topic, you know, but like I'm still on the topic. For somebody, like for them, truth, it's like Ukraine winning, you know. For me, the truth, it's Russia winning. You understand? Like we kind of all having like different truth, but on the end, there is just like that one truth, you know.
I'm not entirely sure if I followed that. I think what you said was like the truth somehow influences the meaning. Is that what you were saying?
Uh no.
Okay, I'm
Give me a
sorry, I
sec.
didn't follow.
No, sorry. It's like my English. It's a problem. Not everybody having same truth. Not like some things. It's not truth for you. It's you know. Sorry. Something can be true for you, but for me can be lie. You know, like you know, like flat Earth. You know, you can say, oh, okay, Earth it's round. You know, and that can be truth to you. You can think that's truth, you know, but I can think the actual truth it's the flat Earth, you know, and like on the end, like you know, like if we like hypothetically died, you know, like we will like find the answer, you know, like and like answer can be just one, you know, there is like just one truth.
Gotcha. Okay, I understand now. You're saying that there can only be one truth, but we might believe different things are true.
Yes.
Gotcha. All right, David, you've been really quiet. I've been talking. I've been hogging up the whole show.
No, I it's taken me a long time to get grounded. I've had a real big day, and I'm enjoying the ride. So
All right.
I got nothing to add just yet. Sorry.
Just want to give you an opportunity there.
Appreciate it.
All right. Killa, I think I've asked you a lot of questions here, and I think I've come to kind of the end of what I have to ask. But if you have anything for me or David.
No, thank you guys. Thank you for bringing me on the stage. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks for coming up. That was great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Killer. And we have composition. If you guys want to move on to him,
Yeah, let's move on to
them.
him.
Yeah.
Composition, you're up. Welcome.
Hello.
Hey, what's up? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, so the question of the chat is, why is flat Earth important to you? Well, I take importance to refer to something that has some significant impact on my psychology. And certainly the existence of flat Earth communities, and the very concept being espoused has a lot of importance to me, given that it is surprising that so many people can believe such a thing in the face of an insurmountable level of evidence against the case. I think it is really important to me because it demonstrates the sheer shortcomings of our education systems, our institutions, and our general, I don't know, culture, you know? And so that holds a lot of importance to me.
Okay. Why is that important?
Oh, well, for a multitude of reasons. That's going to come down to some combination of an analysis of the impactors on my life, some kind of historical analysis, you know, all the things that matter to me. Some things that matter to me, for example, are the types of interactions I'll have with people in my life. Other things that matter are going to be my access to various resources, which, by the way, is going to hinge on the capabilities of those around me, right? And if those around me are at such a level that they can not even be sure of the shape of the planet that they're on, right? That's going to say a lot about their capability in cooperating with me in developing the world around us. I mean, just think about it as if it was some kind of, you know, city builder sim, right? You don't want like some lackey workers that don't even know what shape the fucking plane is that they're on, right? They're probably not going to be very effective at cultivating resources and cooperating properly if they lack very basic scientific understandings. And I suspect the vast majority of people don't even, like, I'm just talking about the general population here. The vast majority of people don't even probably know why the Earth is a globe. They've heard it and they just know it's true because the overwhelming degree of, you know, institutional truths that are delivered will be sufficient, right? But they couldn't themselves make a case for it, which I think is quite embarrassing. And is also reflective of a failure of our institutions.
Right, I've heard you say a few different things here. I've been writing them down. So one of them was shortcomings of education. The other one was interactions with people. Another one was resources, and then finally cooperation. Of all those, which is the most important?
Well, I mean, that's going to be context dependent. They all hold some amount of importance. It's hard to quantify, but it's just going to come down to how those impact my baseline values. So things I value are going to be various experiences and synapses in my brain, right? And what is conducive to those is going to be a very complex analysis to quantify which one would maximize that more than the other. I just know that those things do contribute. I couldn't really tell you for sure which ones would likely be most important towards that, right? I can't give you that, but I think that's fine, right?
Yeah, that's fine. It's okay not to have an answer. That's perfectly fine. I don't have answers for a lot of different stuff. Believe me.
But what I do know is that they are contributors. I just don't know versus which one compared to the other, which is quantifically, you know, more significant. But they're all contributors.
I seem to sense a great deal of frustration. Is that observation correct?
I mean, sure, as long as we're not scaling any particular degree of frustration.
Yeah, I don't know how much. No idea. How frustrated do you think you are about with people who believe the Earth is flat?
About as frustrated as if I, you know, spilled some food that I was really excited to eat. Probably that much frustration.
Dude, that's big for me. I don't know about you.
That would be pretty big for me too.
It depends on what I was making and how big the meal was. The more food lost, the more egregious. You know.
Yeah.
I'd say
Okay.
maybe if I wanted to be more specific, it'd probably be like, I don't know, spilling a bowl of cereal, something like that. It wouldn't be like dropping a lasagna. It's not on that level.
Mhm. Are we talking like Frosted Flakes, or are we talking like something with granola in it?
Probably the probably like Fruit Loops.
Oh, Fruit Loops. Okay. Okay. So it's not that serious. Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
All right.
And also, I will say that there's other reasons that it's important to me. I do actually enjoy interacting with the flat earth community just for pure entertainment reasons. There's something about it that just gives me this sort of joy that I can't really get from many other places. And it's truly fascinating. So in one way, I think that it's cringy that it exists. But on the other hand, I'm kind of happy that it does exist because it gives me experiences that a world without it would not be able to provide.
That's really interesting. I've never heard anyone kind of simultaneously say that they're frustrated and experiencing joy at the same time.
Well, the frustration in and of itself can be desirable if it's some sort of obstacle to overcome. I mean, there's no good story without conflict, right? I mean,
Like a
you learn in
challenge.
grade school. Yeah, or some kind of conflict, even if it's
Okay.
not even a challenge posed directly to you, just something problematic in the world.
Okay. With regards to the frustration, what's beneath that?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
What's holding it up? What's there that if it wasn't there, you wouldn't be frustrated?
What is there that if it wasn't there would cause me not to be frustrated?
Mhm.
I don't know, just some sort of values and desires that I have.
Okay.
We
Is
lose
it
him?
possible to name one?
Did I lose
We
him?
just lost him. He just dropped out, guys. I'm not sure what
Okay,
happened
he's
there.
trying to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll bring him up now.
Thank you.
I'm not sure what happened there, but yeah. So
Internet.
you were asking, yeah. So you were asking, what is there which, if not there, would cause me not to be frustrated? Well,
Yep.
I can derive a causal link that traces back to my values and desires, right? I
Yeah.
have certain values, certain desires, and if those were not in place, then I suppose I wouldn't be frustrated.
Do you know what a value might be do you know which value it might be?
Oh yeah, maybe just my value or desire to prove that uh, I can use rationality or reason to show those around me the truth. Maybe like that value or desire not being met causes that level of frustration, something like that. But there could be, hundreds of other things. That's just one example.
Okay. So it's like when you're unable to, I guess, when you're talking to a flat earther and you're not able to change their mind through um, logical arguments, then that causes the frustration.
Yeah, I mean, if I get into a discussion with a flat earther and I deliver such obtusely powerful empirical evidence, and that doesn't seem to sway them at all, it just causes me to, as people say, lose faith in humanity. It causes me to, not fulfill this value of showing that with just a little bit of brain power and reasonability, you can make the world a better place, something like that.
Is it just this one topic, or is it other topics that you feel the same about? Like you
Oh,
try
there
to
are
convince.
countless topics. This is one of a million. But this definitely makes top 100 in those topics.
This kind of reminds me of the conversation I just had with the previous guest about truth and meaning. It kind of sounds like truth is really important to you.
Well, in this case, it's not so much about truth. It's probably more related to my ability to convey some concept to someone. Even if what I was delivering to them was not true, if I make an argument that under, my epistemic values should convince them of the proposition in question. Them refusing to accept it would be something that I find also undesirable, whether or not I was actually correct about the thing, right? So, for example, could be the case that we're in a court, right, and we have someone that's on trial for murder, and everybody in the courtroom just says, well, we think this guy's a murderer because his face is ugly, right? And as the defense I'll provide is, something along the rational lines of, not only have we no evidence for him committing the murder, but there's even evidence to the contrary, suggesting that he wasn't in this region place that he would have had to have been in for this murder to even be logistically or physically fucking possible. And people still saying he's a murderer in spite of that. And it could turn out to be the case that against all odds, somehow he was responsible for this murder. Like just some weird, crazy shit. Maybe secretly he's like the only human on planet Earth that has the death note from the fucking anime Death Note, and he just wrote the person's name and killed them, right? They just happened to be right, but for all the wrong reasons. They thought he was a murderer just because his face was ugly, right? That would go against my values, them deeming him as a murderer, even if it was true, right? So it's not even just about truth. It's about the way that people come to conclusions. That's also bothersome. Actually, that is the thing that's bothersome.
Interesting. Are the consequences have any importance, or is it more just about the process that people derive what is true?
It depends on the topic. With flat Earth, no, the consequences don't bother me much. But there are other topics that do have serious consequences, like topics when it comes to diet, medication, and other things that will have a strong impact on people's life. Topics related to politics, things like that. Those ones do have consequences that also bother me. But with many topics like flat Earth, for example, no, it's just the value in terms of how I desire people to reason and think. That's all.
Okay, understood. If you were to compare like the consequences value versus the how people derive truth value, which is more important? Which is a higher value priority?
It's going to depend on the topic, right?
Mhm.
So in the case of the court case, I'd probably prefer that we don't have the consequence of that man running free and killing countless more people with his superpower. But then one can also say, well, is it entailed by that hypothetical that you're talking about, that more people will be prosecuted even if they're innocent because of their ugly face, because this is being perpetuated as some normalcy in society? Well, if that was something stipulated in the hypothetical, then yeah, I'd also take that into account. The consequences there matter more, right? But the point there is the thinking itself could lead to consequences, but there are some times where I just value the way people think in and of itself, regardless of consequences. So it's going to depend on the topic. It scales differently. With flat Earth, no, it's not about consequences. For me, that one's leaning mostly in the direction of I just am annoyed at the way certain people think. And then there's other topics like maybe veganism, where I'm more on the line of, oh, well, I actually care about the consequences of this. The way people are thinking is resulting in like one of the biggest holocausts of all time just happening to animals right before us, So it depends on the topic.
Gotcha.
Because flat Earth is not leading to any holocausts. It's just leading to some silly takes, which is not concerning to me.
So are you vegan or anti-vegan?
I'm vegan.
Okay, it's interesting because I've not that there are some, but generally there's a lot of people who are anti-vegan are also anti-flat Earth. It's anecdotal, but I've noticed that they've got this the thinking, the mindset is that the majority is always right, and they see vegans as a minority, or they also say vegans are preaching some sort of moral, ethical thing instead of just a dietary. So I'd be curious if you go. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say that's another line of thinking I actually am bothered by. People who just say that something must be true if the majority of people hold the belief. That's something I criticize Globers for. If they want to enter a flat earth chat and embarrass themselves by saying, well, the majority of people believe it, therefore it's true. It's like, well, that's just not deductively valid at all, right? Like, I don't know what the argument is that the majority believing something would raise the likelihood of it being true. It could actually reduce the likelihood of it being true because people desire to believe falsehoods in many cases, you know? So yeah, that's also a line of thinking I'd find kind of cringe. And actually, yeah, I do know a couple vegan flat earthers. I've talked to a guy named Nathan Oakley once. He's a flat earther and he's also vegan, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Nathan Thompson. There's another one too. He's a real militant vegan. He started off, he came across flat earth through vegan activism.
Oh, you know, I think I got the two names confused. I think I was actually talking about Nathan Thompson.
Okay.
He was the one that got arrested for something at a school campus, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the guy I was talking about. That's the guy.
Composition. If you met somebody who believed that the Earth was flat, but they seemed more credible to you, how would they present that information? I mean, what would convince you that this has more credibility?
Oh, I would just want to see observations that are more expected on the hypothesis of a flat plane than a round one. That's all.
And I mean, I've seen you. I'm sure you've been around on these kind of servers, and you've seen people posit observations. And do you feel as though they might feel you are seeing empirical evidence and not comprehending it in a similar way that you're feeling that about them?
So the question was, am I not comprehending what they're sharing with me in the same way that I think that they're not comprehending what I'm sharing with them?
Is that a
Something
possibility?
like that?
That's the case?
Oh, if you say, is it a possibility? I could grant that it's logically possible and that it's physically possible, but is it likely? I suspect not.
Do you put a lot of weight on yourself to convince people of things? This is just a personal question.
That depends on the context and the person. So if I'm just talking to some random person that I may never talk to again, no, not really. I'm just having fun, right?
Yeah.
But let's say I have a girlfriend and she's either, staunchly anti-vegan or staunchly flat earth or something like this. Well, then there will be like some increased force or pressure
Do you want the people close to
actually
you to have
change their
similar
mind.
mindsets or values, I guess?
Yeah. Like if I'm going to be with someone, if there's some, what do you call it? Like, I don't know. I can't think of the word right now, but if it's like a disagreement that you can't get over, that's just going to be a problem in the relationship for me. Right. And this doesn't have to be in a romantic relationship. It could be someone I'm close friends with, a family member. We could scale it down. And then there's the in-between areas of, an acquaintance, of which there would be like some small amount of, interest in convincing them, but it's not like a huge priority, something like that.
And at what point do you make the switch from what I'm saying is not convincing and not being presented in a way that's effective, and the other person just can't comprehend it? Like, when do you tag that off, like on something like flat Earth?
Oh, are you asking how I determine if an argument is convincing? Well, that's just going to come down to, well, wait, is there something else that you want to
when
know?
do you draw the line? Like, do you say that maybe you're not presenting the information well enough? Maybe you're not.
How do I determine if I'm
to meet their
being
need
effective or not?
Yeah. Earlier you said that people might have like a deficiency or something, and you say these people have a deficiency. So how do you determine that it's a deficiency on their end or a deficiency on your end? And not a negative way. I'm just.
Yeah. So what I will do is a couple of things, right? I would just try to have some self-awareness, play devil's advocate, think of the best arguments against the premises that I'm using to form the conclusions, right? So I would try to look for the weakest points in my argument. and think about whether or not it would be reasonable for me to say that this premise is not convincing or something like this, right? Another thing is, because like there might be limitations to my understanding of a subject, I'll go to, before I run this on the masses, I'll go to the best people in the subject and ask them to give me their best critiques of the premises in question, right? And if they deliver something beforehand, I won't even show it to people if there's some glaring error that I need to fix up before I go and present it, right? So I'll just run it through a series of tests. I'll run it through a filter of my own mind, you know, trying to make the best arguments against the premises I'm presenting. I'll have external critique run by, you know, someone who might have thought differently than I did, something I didn't quite catch.
I hear what you're saying, and like I'm not trying to stop that, but what I'm trying to, I think what I'm trying to ask is, that's how it convinced you, but it may not convince other people, and I guess what I'm wondering is, do you consider that the things that convince you might not convince other people? Well, of course you have.
Well, of course.
I mean, yeah.
Well, that's actually just going to be a value question, right? It could be convincing to me that I should stop throwing plastic in the garbage if someone showed me some empirical evidence. There's not empirical evidence for this, by the way, but if someone showed me empirical evidence that recycling will actually lead to a reduction in various particulates in the atmosphere, that might be convincing to me, but it might not be convincing to someone else for a multitude of reasons. One of those might be they don't actually care if there are particulates in the atmosphere. They desire for there to be, plastic particles in the atmosphere or something like this, right? They desire that. And so, of course, it wouldn't be convincing to show them empirics for something that they don't desire against, right? And then in other cases, it's a question of whether or not they think the evidence meets their epistemic bar. Now, that's slightly different, but still technically a value question. As weird as it sounds, whether or not someone finds evidence convincing is quite literally a moral question of whether or not they just to simplify it, it's going to be subjective whether or not one can consider evidence epistemically error-free, right? It's a weird technical philosophical subject, but long story short, someone can just say, this doesn't meet my bar for evidence. You could show someone anything and they'll just say, oh, I'm an epistemic nihilist. There's nothing that can be convincing enough towards any proposition being true, right? They could just set the bar to infinity. And as long as the value set is consistent, right, there's no logical contradictions formed by it, but it is what we would all call ridiculous, right? And someone can also do the opposite, where they could say anything, even the most remote anecdotes of some vague utterance related to some subject can be convincing of some full-fledged proposition, right? And then you have everything in between. So whether or not someone finds some empirical deliverance I have is just going to be some value question. It's just going to hinge on their values, right?
Well, I guess I'm asking your value on whether or not that is worth trying to address their values or like trying to meet their values.
Oh, well, the first thing I ask a lot of people is, what would I have to show you to get you to believe that this is true, right? If someone asks me that question, I can answer it, right? But a lot of people that I ask this question, if they say nothing, I will not even bother having the conversation with them because they quite literally are saying there is nothing I could show them to change their mind. They just have a crazy value system, and there's not much I could do with that. In fact, there's nothing I could do with that, according to them. I could make the claim that I'm wearing red boxers, and they could say there's nothing I could do to prove that to them, even if I pull my pants down right in front of them and show them the red fucking boxers, and they say I still don't believe it. There's just nothing I can do with that, right? They just have a fucked epistemic system.
Can you imagine a person who has a solid epistemic system, intelligent astrophysicist, flat earther,
can I imagine such a thing? I can imagine it, like, at least hypothetically, but can I imagine that there is such an individual? To be honest, I suspect not. Like, if by astrophysicist you mean someone who has sufficiently, like, like examined all the complex mathematics of rotating bodies and molecular interactions and all this stuff that is beyond even me. No, I can't imagine that. But if we start to remove various traits from that, then it becomes imaginable. Like, we could say that the person got really old, a little bit senile, perhaps. We could say that the person doesn't actually have a lot of understanding of a lot of these things in general, but is just autistically particularly good at these various pieces of math. Something like this. I mean, yeah, just that's the best answer I could give for that. But to be honest, no, I can't imagine such a thing. And I would be truly flabbergasted if I actually met a real accredited astrophysicist that can describe, like, the interaction between two particles colliding in mathematical detail that was a flat Earth. I would be just taken aback. And I'd love to talk to them and just understand what's going on there. I would be really interested to see such a thing.
Sounds neat. Crit, AJ, find those people.
Yeah, there used to be Tolan. He has since passed. But he made a lot of astrophysics and astronomy models using a flat Earth geocentric cosmology. There's another guy whose name was Chronic, who was supposedly we don't know for sure, but he self-disclosed many times that he was a doctoral candidate, and he said there's enough wiggle room in the math that it's 50-50. It's all based on interpretation. What sort of lens do you view it at? And a lot of his epistemology was 50-50 also. And so yeah, he kind of pissed off a lot of globalists because they believed, or they saw all his lab work, and he live streamed walking around campus, and then said, yeah, man, if you view this stuff through a geocentric lens, it matches, which is why Copernicus had and famously said that using celestial observations for earthbound claims caused you to exit the process a greater fool than which you entered. It's two separate things. In other words, the sky and the ground are completely divorced of each other. So saying like that star, that moon, that galaxy, that black hole is divining you information about the Earth, that's not, you're outside of astronomy and astrophysics and stuff. You're inside a concept called astrology, where the heavenly bodies determine earthbound terrestrial events.
Yeah, if there's guys like this out there, I'd love to not only look into their bios, see what their specific studies are, I'd also like to talk to them. I'd love to talk to them. Just go to any college
campus and talk to any of the astrophysics, astronomy professors. They'll do a clear line between what the sky and the ground are, or just go to a planetarium. We've got doctors in astronomy basically presenting a walk-in flat Earth model. You walk right into the model, and there it is. You can say, "Hey, how does this work? How do you make the sky appear on a flat floor with a dome ceiling?" And they can break it all down for you.
Interesting.
Sorry, 1 second. I was typing to someone. Yeah, I mean, I can look up these people, their names, and if there's anywhere that I could possibly have access to talk to them, I'd love to do so. Maybe I'll record the conversation and put it up on various boards so we can see, these different opinions held by these guys. Now, forgive me, but I am skeptical of such a thing because I've heard claims about there being experts in some field holding some certain view, like, during the whole COVID era, I was hearing people talk about so-called medical experts that are claiming that the vaccine is harmful or whatever vague propositions. And I always look into it, and it turns out that these doctors end up either being quacks or they don't actually believe the claim in hand, because in private they admit that they're just like, you know, taking advantage of people's like emotions and beliefs to gain a fucking grift. But that's not to say that it's logically impossible. I grant that there could be such individuals out there that are honest interlocutors and have truly come to the belief. And even with flat Earth, right? I've come across maybe one or two like truly like honest flat earthers that I just think there's not even like that like noticeable level of cognitive dissonance there. They just truly have come to that conclusion just from a bunch of stuff being delivered to them. One of them I met on Discord, another one I met IRL, and that was like pretty much it. With a lot of other people and a lot of these topics, though, I do think that there's some strong level of bias and cognitive dissonance that are at play that are influencing their judgment. But, you know, I mean, regardless, like, I'd like to talk to these professors and whatnot. I just love to see what the propositions are, what the claims are.
Yeah, you could also do. I don't know if you where you're at for college or whatever, but take like a survey astronomy class, and just like day one, they'll what is the definition of astronomy?
Well, it has a few definitions, but it's generally going to refer to the categorization of Earth external things.
Let me put a pause to that conversation. Y'all link up and follow that through. I think y'all have some interesting conversations there. I'd like to do a thought experiment with you guys, and then we'll probably wrap it up for the night. I've been a zombie all night, and I appreciate everybody putting up with it. And Pierce, you've been holding it down. Thank you. Okay, so conversation up for a thought experiment. AJ, Crit, you want to be in on it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. So, like, imagine you walk up and you meet this guy right here. This is 2-day David. He was born yesterday. He doesn't have any experiences in the world. For some reason, he has a sort of memory where he can use logic and he can understand words. But he's a brand new baby of a person.
Born yesterday.
And he's trying to figure out. What's that?
Everybody's factory reset.
Yep, he's a factory reset human being. And he walks up and he sees y'all two talking, and y'all three talking, and he hears the earth is round and the earth is flat. What would be the first step that he would do to figure out which one of you guys is correct, or if either of you two are correct, three are correct?
Well, he'd probably examine the evidence at play, and he would take a look at the arguments delivered, whether they come in the form of modus ponens, modus tollens, or some disjunctive, deductively valid arguments. He would examine first the validity, then the soundness, meaning he would check if the premises correlate to observation, and then he would formulate a conclusion.
Where would he get these premises and this information and these things to make?
They'd be delivered by me, Crit, and AJ. And he would just look at them and say, do I agree with this premise? Right? If he says, I'm not convinced of this premise, then we'd have to deliver an argument for that premise. And if that argument contains premises he's not yet convinced of, we'd have to deliver an argument for those premises.
Where would you start?
It'll regress until we get to some premise that he holds to be axiomatically true. Something that he just is not questioning, like the sky is blue, right? If one of the premises is the sky is blue, well, he makes an observation and he just accepts that the sky is blue, right? This is some axiom he can accept. Or some premise like he is conscious. Well, this is a premise that he can easily accept because he experiences his consciousness. You know, there's very baseline fundamental pieces like that. And then you could scale it up, right? There are things that may not be quite as clear, but he can accept as true because they're deductively valid from the axioms he does accept.
Okay,
and you just
so
build
he's got
your way
logic
up.
down. He's got logic. Now, where do we get to the shape of the earth? Where do we start?
Oh, yeah. So I would deliver some syllogism, like if the EME represents a ratio of angles from the sun that are irreplicable on a flat surface, then the Earth is not flat. Premise 2, I fulfilled that condition by saying we cannot replicate the EME angles. And then conclusion, the Earth is not flat, something like that. And then he could say, but I'm not convinced of premise 2. Do we actually not formulate these angles? Then I'd say, okay, here's the argument for premise 2. So you'd start from the top so you know what the bullseye is, right? You know what the target is. And then you get to that bullseye by finding out which parts he's not convinced of and then delivering the argument for those parts until you bottom out to an axiom.
Let me hear these other guys out real quick. I'm holding my axiom thought.
Yeah, go
Mine's
for it.
really easy, and I kind of got it from George Carlin. George Carlin. It's basically, it goes like this: that you shit test the speaker, and say, what happens if you tell them no, thank you. If somebody's got some truth that really is important, they'll be okay with that. They'll be able to handle a no. If they're trying to sell you some bull crap that isn't useful, like a snake oil salesman, they'll turn on the hard sell. And George Carlin's skit went something like, well, the guy sounds reasonable, he sounds intelligent, but he's full of crap. So I would start with saying, hey, which one of these two people are okay if you walk away from them? And which one will hound you and follow you around and call you, R word and try to invoke a victimhood about a loss of faith in all of humanity if you call a flat surface flat. Just see where it goes from there. Like a very simple thing that could also carry through that all the rest of his life. Like if somebody says, composition, I said earlier, if someone says no thank you for a medical procedure, are they okay with that? Or do they try to say, well, now you can't work, whatever. So just offering, see how well and how balanced a person is, just how well they handle no thank you.
I hear you. I mean, I hear what you're saying. It sounds like a good quick test to sniff through BS potentially, like a car salesman trying to hit you up. And I've been a car salesman. I know it. Today it's his first day. Second day. But I mean, someone could say no thank you or let you walk away and potentially be wrong, right? I mean, they could be confident they're right and still be wrong. So I don't know if that's right. I don't know if he can start from there and move to the next step. AJ, you have any thoughts? Or Crit, would you like to follow up on that first?
Oh yeah, the next step would be if they cared enough, they can follow whatever method or practice they could use to get there on their own.
Yeah, he's trying to figure that out. You
Yeah,
think you can help him out on that?
Yeah, like just whatever they thought they heard, whatever the flat or curved. So you'd have like the composition said, hey, we can take angles to the sun. And you're like, hey, can you take an angle from a curved surface? Try it out. See, like do and see.
Okay, so do some empirical test.
Or whatever methodology they would be. Like, is there any time where the sun is below you? Like walk around the world and be like, oh, okay, like kind of like that commercial with the cellular phone company was like, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Good.
Just walk around the earth and say, at any point in time, can I take an angle to a curved surface? And is at any point in time, is the sun not above my head?
Okay. AJ, you have?
So,
Pierce. Yeah, let's hear it.
I got
David.
lost there. With David here. I'm thinking David's in the same boat as me. Kind of confused. I mean, it's his second day. It's my 6,000th day or something. Who knows, right? But I got a little lost. Like, sun being like below you. I guess how do we detect the sun if it's like below us, and what would that demonstrate? Would it mean like flat or round? I got lost.
Well, the reason why the sun being below or not is important is because with the vast majority of accepted flat Earth models, the sun would have to remain above you, whereas the accepted globe Earth model entails the sun sort of being below you at certain times of the day because the Earth is rotating. And so if you draw a straight line from your eyes, outward into the horizon, the sun will either be above or below that for 12 hours of the day.
Okay. And I guess crit.
So it
How,
just
how
has
do
to do
we
with, yeah.
how do we detect that? Like how do we test that? I got a little lost on that part.
Oh, well,
If the
there's a
sun-
multitude of ways to do that, right? So there are observations you can make that are and are not compatible with the sun being above or below, right? Some of those would include various angles that are generated by shadows, although that's a little bit complex because many might invoke concepts like refraction to explain why the angle of the light hits differently at various points. But other easier ones might be things such as a sunset or the light hitting clouds from below and reckoning whether or not that's actually mathematically possible, or rather geometrically possible. The reason I say mathematically is because if refraction is invoked, we can actually determine what degree of refraction would be required, and we can determine it to be something that is or is not actually possible given the, properties of water molecules. So it would just be observations that you make that are either more or less expected on a given hypothesis.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna hand it back to David, but crit. I'd just like to know what your test would look like before I do that.
Yeah, the same, like to say no, thank you, or what do you mean? Like
Like you said that
the-
you could. One of the tests was like to see if the sun ever goes below you, and I'm just wondering what that test looks like.
or like it. Okay, yeah. So it would look like wherever you go, any place you go on the earth, has the sun ever been below your feet, or is it always above your head?
I'm just wondering how I would know that. Like, how would I figure it out
Or
if it
you would
was or
look
not?
up.
If I don't see it, and does that mean it's below me or?
Like from a friend, like the Verizon thing with like, can you see me now? So you would watch the
Oh,
sun travel off in the distance. Then you could phone a friend over there and be like, "Hey, do you see the sun?" Yep. Where is it? Where is it? It's above my head. All right, cool. You could stage people all like wherever you wanted, and everyone at some point is gonna be able to see the sun. Be like, "Yeah, hey, I see it. Is it below you or above you? It's above me. All right.
okay.
Is it coming back? It's coming back your way. Okay, got it. Oh, I see it. It's above me now."
All right. I'll hand it back over to David here. I'm kind of putting into his little
Let's
thought
say like
experiments.
That's all right.
like when you do like water polo or volleyball, and someone's knocking the ball back and forth. Got it, got it. They're calling when they're going to hit the ball or not. Just kind of picture that, but the sun moving on its own around
What
the court.
what would be like a experiment that would say like what would be a result of that experiment? Like what do you look for that would show that it was flat or show that it was round?
Well, the first one's the angle, taking a measurement from a curved surface. Can you draw an angle to something in the sky when you're on the curve or on the flat? And then from that part is once you've got the angle, map it out, measure it out. Be like, yep, from here to here, like firing like a catapult or something. It'd be interesting to see if somebody could do like some kind of video game where tanks or whatever that game is called, where you have to put the deflection angle of your barrel and shoot over, and they've got wind and whatnot, but curve the surface. How would you even know where your gun tube is at? What's the angle there? Newton came up with this idea about Newton's cannonball. You can probably find a GIF of it if you just type in Newton's cannonball or something. It'll give you a concept of what a cannon firing over a curved surface looks like.
Neat.
Yeah, if you guys are asking specifically, like, what observation would I look for that is expected on one model and not the other, it would be something like the rotation of the stars, the shadow angles formed by the sun. Well, let me actually just touch on the second one. A lot of the rebuttals come to the original Aristophanes experiment where, if you have two poles, it could just be that the sun is close, but you can actually fix that just by adding a third one. So you can actually calculate the shadow ratios over distance and determine whether or not they're actually possible on a flat surface, regardless of how high the light source is. So that would be another one. I would want to see an observation of the shadow lengths and whether or not the rate of length increase on the shadows over time is actually replicable on a flat surface. So that would be the second one. Actually, since I spent that much time on the second one, might as well cover that first one. So for the stars and their rotation,
just a quick question, real quick. Critter AJ, would that be something that would make you change your position? Like, would you want to
look, to be 100% honest, for my position to change, I would need to see some type of measured drop over distance that shows that we're living on that curved surface. Now, that's something that cannot be presented. So, composition. Composition just presented something like Eratosthenes. Yeah. Now, this is how I became involved in flat Earth in the first place, because we get made all these claims that are apparently scientific, they're apparently, proving the shape of something. And then when we go back and we actually have a look further into this, we find that, Eratosthenes was someone who lived before the time of Christ, around the time of Christ. We have no primary source documentation to state what he actually did or how he did it. We find that it's something that was began to be taught in school somewhere around the 1980s. And then when we look further into what's proposed, we see that Eratosthenes was trying to come up with a radius or a circumference of a presupposed ball. So he wasn't actually measuring drop over distance. What he did was we said, well, we believe that the Earth is a sphere. We want to come up with a radius for that. So what they do is they assume a distance to the sun. They assume that they have parallel light rays coming in. They then take an angle measurement of a shadow from a stick in a well, right? And then they make a calculation based off that with the assumption of the globe. So when we start looking into the evidence that's claimed to be solid evidence, Eratosthenes measured the globe. Well, no, he made a calculation.
Just to be clear, AJ, it's not Eratosthenes. Actually, Eratosthenes' experiment would be insufficient according to flat earthers because there were only 2 shadow points. However, if you use 3, then you can show whether or not it's actually compatible with a flat surface. And there's actually people who use 11 points or even more. My friend Avi actually did it just a couple of years ago. And what he found was that the rate of change of the shadow over distance is actually just incompatible with a refractionless flat earth. Now, if you add refraction, if the definition of refraction is just going to be vague, it is technically logically possible. However, the degrees of refraction you would need also work against other observations. Like, we don't see buildings that are only like 2 miles away twisting and curving over like 20 degrees, which would be the degree of refraction required for those shadows to end up the way they are. So that would be the observations we're relying on, not some old Eratosthenes, folklore type stuff. We have modern day experiments we can do for that stuff. So
Okay, so look, I don't want to get into a debate about the topic of Eratosthenes. Yeah, I heard he was brought up and measuring shadows, etc. I was just bringing up the point that Eratosthenes is brought up. Now, that is the reason. The reason I gave is something why I wouldn't take Eratosthenes as measuring a direct curvature or a direct drop over distance that's required. Yeah, as per the evidence that I'd require, I'd want to see that curvature. Now, there is also people from the globe side who will tell you that this shadow and stick experiment can work on more points depending on the location of the sun. Now, to go back to 2-Day David's question in the beginning, how would I present this to you? Okay, I have kids myself. I have 4 kids, and I even remember myself back when I was at school. But, I'm just going to go very simply, what we witness every day when we walk outside is we witness a stationary, non-rotating plane of existence. And I think that, when this is presented to children, especially us being in Australia, hanging upside down off a ball, there's a lot of cog dis going on there. There's a bit of confusion. Like, how is this happening? Because it's not what we witness in reality ourselves every day. And I don't believe that if you were not told that you were living on a spinning ball, flying through an infinite vacuum of space around the sun, that you would not come up with that conclusion for yourself. And if we look at all the ancient, going back to ancient cosmology, we know that it was believed to be a flat Earth with the stars, sun and moon rotating above our heads, yeah? And then from there, if you needed some type of evidence, I would probably start with water, knowing that I can show you that water finds and maintains level due to pressure and fluid dynamics and statics. That would be something that I would present to you. And to Crit's point, again, measuring these shadow angles. Yeah, we do this daily. We measure angles every day. Yeah, we do it in surveying, we do it in navigation. And what we find is that the Earth is referenced as the horizontal reference plane for those measurements. So I would present something along those lines, but I would definitely begin with the fact that it's just not what we witness in reality every day. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, don't worry. I'm not here to provoke a debate or anything, but I do want to ask you something. When you say that when we go outside, what we observe is a stationary, non-rotating plane, do you mean to say that you observe some certain, composition and, range of visuals that seem to be compatible with a flat plane? Because the funny thing is, if any observations you're making are not also just as expected on a globe that's really large, then all you're saying here is that those observations are compatible with both models. And you also said observe non-rotating. I mean, the funny thing is, are you saying that we would have observed some sort of feeling of like movement? Because that's also just not something you'd expect to feel on the globe model. In fact, us not feeling anything because there's nothing to really feel, there's not an acceleration happening, is actually expected on the globe model. Meaning that all these things you're saying are observations that are just as expected on the hypothesis of the globe model. So it just seems strange to say, well, we seem to observe a flat plane. Well, you're also observing something that's actually directly in line with a giant globe.
Okay, so I was just answering 2-Day David. Again, I don't want to get into some sort of debate about this subject, but what I would say is that we are given a radius value. And off of that radius value, we can work out an equation where we should be seeing the physical curvature, or what would be called a geometric horizon, that starts blocking objects, boats, and buildings. Okay, so, and then there's obviously limitations to our vision, etc. But when we do these long distance observations, whether that be photography, whether that be surveying techniques, whether that be lasers, yeah, what we don't see is that curvature of the Earth. And according to the globe model, we're not going to see it due to the way that we interact with light. So what we would call refraction or terrestrial refraction. So I find an issue there as well that, hey, there is a geometric horizon we can just never see it. We can just never detect it. However, it is there. When what we see in reality is an apparent location where the sky appears to meet the Earth that changes daily, that we can't ever reach as a physical location or point. And I think that what happens a lot of the time in these flat Earth discussions is that people have heard things, people believe what they've been told, and they come into the discussion. And I particularly like to question people. Okay, I like to ask questions about what they're stating, and what we usually find is we come to a point where there is no answer. Yeah, it's claims that have made that actually can't be sufficiently supported, and I mean that goes into as we talked about refraction, what refraction is, how that works. It goes into a lot of different subjects. But as a simple answer for Today David's question, I would simply point out that when you look up, you don't witness the Earth rotating, you witness the celestial bodies moving above us. When we're on the Earth, we don't witness the movement that's claimed. Now, we are taking a curved path, which does equal acceleration. The Earth is moving at different rates in this curved path. So to me, we should be feeling something going on there. But very simply, my first point would be, we all witness the stars rotate. We don't witness the rotation ourselves. We all witness a stationary plane. We don't witness the curvature. It can't be directly measured. It's always calculated. And that water finds level. And we've used water levels for thousands and thousands of years for this purpose. So that would be my answer to that, David. And quickly, guys, also, I know we haven't had a lot of people in the chat, but we've also got Mathematician who's had his hand up for about 30 minutes.
To roll them in real quick, just want them up on the stage, and you guys hold y'all's conversation a little bit. Let's see what he's got to say, and we'll probably wrap it up here in
problems.
A bit.
Mathematician, you're up, buddy. Welcome.
Hello. I gotta be honest. I've listened to a lot of flat earthers. I respect your consistency and principles. I think that I've always wanted to see what, because I'm a mathematician. I know how to do math. I know how to draw a circle, draw a line that sticks out of the circle that's like the height of a skyscraper, and then draw like some sort of right triangle to figure out, how far I'd be able to see that building, right? I've never done that myself, but like, how are you familiar with like how far we should be seeing skyscrapers?
That'd also depend on the conditions of the day. We know when we listen to the weather, we're told a distance that we can see or a visibility for the day. It would also depend on, like I said, we've got images of the horizon moving in and out daily. So I
was in a plane the other day. Sorry, go ahead.
That's all right. I've made personal observations myself across about 20 kilometres approximately of water from shoreline to shoreline. But some days that may not be visible due to the conditions. And if you're talking about, again, measuring angles, even if we have a look at, say, geodetic surveying, what they're doing is they're measuring linear angles, and after the fact of creating these plane triangles, it's a calculation that's done to try and fit these plane triangles back onto that presupposed sphere. So on your globe, I don't disagree, mathematician, or on a circle, we can have a tangent line or a tangent point where that line needs to intersect that circle, and we can take measurements from that intersecting line. However, again, I see the issue on the globe that whenever we do these measurements, we're adjusting down to sea level or to level to establish that horizontal so that we can have a 90. And secondly, as I'd stated earlier, the claim is on the globe side that due to refraction and due to light bending, that we don't expect to see this geometric horizon. We're only going to see this apparent horizon that moves in and out daily, which means you don't have that required tangent to a geometric location for an accurate measurement.
Okay. I mean, so I was on a plane, I think, about a couple days ago, and it was on my way back from Arizona. I was traveling to California, and I couldn't really see that far because it's just smoggy everywhere, right? Like everywhere I go, there's just like a thick layer of shit on the base of the earth. And I'm wondering how conspiratorial you get. Do you think that there was a time period in recent modern history, where people could see way further than we can today as a result of before the industrial era, essentially?
Look, maybe that is the case, but again, that would have to do today with all our atmospheric effects that we see, whether that be smog, cloud. We know that temperature, a good example would be temperature on a hot road causes a distortion, a wave effect. Yeah. So maybe that is the case, but rather than me discussing this with you, I think that I'd like to direct it back to the show and ask you the question: why would flat Earth be important to you, or not important? How does it make you feel? Is it something that upsets you? Is it something that you feel you need to get in and correct? Is it something that's important in your daily
that's
life?
a good question. Well, it is actually. I think about it a lot. I definitely think about the moon landing a lot. That's the one thing I question the most. It's like I've seen some of the videos, and I think to myself, like, how the hell are you sending live video feed across like hundreds of thousands of miles? I think it is. Like in the 1960s. Like I can't even send video from my laptop to my TV without an HDMI cable. Like it's just so, and it's 2014. I don't understand that part, but the thing that like drives me the nuts the most, like the stuff that gives me the most cognitive dissonance about flat Earth, is that a lot of flat earthers are extremely principled and extremely consistent and extremely respectful. So I hang out a lot with atheists. There are some atheists who, I think are really respectful and consistent with their views, and they're not willing to resort to ad hominems or anything like that. I've noticed that flat earthers tend to be respectful. I think Gregory's kind of a dick, but that's just me throwing that out there. But most people who believe in flat Earth are super nice, very respectful, and I think they genuinely want to do science, which I can't knock that at all. I think about that a lot.
I appreciate that. I was going to say, I appreciate your honesty, because we don't hear that much from people having discussions with us.
Well, I'm sure Discord adds a little bit of a diffraction to that image.
Yeah.
Two random questions, or two random bits I want to throw in here, and I'm actually going to call this a wrap, I think. One composition, I think AJ was one of the points he was trying to make that I didn't feel was super addressed is why would you assume a globe in the first place? You're kind of doing math like the curved surface and stuff like that. I think that's a question that would be interesting to somebody who was new to this thought process. Why you started a globe.
There's nothing to start with, essentially. I just gather the math, gather the observations, and then I have whatever number of models that could hypothesize the explanation, and I say, which one are these mathematical observations most compatible with? Which hypothesis, essentially, is this most expected on? This is a concept called expected hypothesis concept, right? And This actually is what's largely used subconsciously by everybody, but in an informal way whenever they're trying to learn, right?
Sure.
Even if you grew
Like
up
take a guess
outside of
and go for it.
society.
Yeah.
What do you say?
I hear what you're saying. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. You say, well, let's try this, basically.
Well, it's more like it's not let's try this. It's more like we've made an observation. I see this thing that has like these branches and these green things coming off these things that I know are branches, but I don't know what these green things are. So what exactly are they? And I could analyze the picture and I could compare it to various things. And then I could come to the conclusion, oh, these are leaves. These must be these things that have these photosynthetic properties, something like that.
Well, I'd be curious if you ever felt inclined to maybe make us a cheat sheet of like the kind of first steps on how to deduct to start with, to even consider globe as a one of the models to consider. Like what do you think if somebody, an alien or a 2-day David or whatever, what would their first step be? That'd just be a fun thing. I'd be curious if you'd be interested in putting that.
First step to determine whether or not the Earth is a globe. Oh, I'd be talking to them about things that are fundamental to all forms of reason that relate to many more subjects than just flat Earth. Just as a foundation, I would go through a few concepts in analytic logic, just so I know we're on the same page in terms of deduction. And once that's in place, right?
Yeah.
Then
once you got logic and deduction, and you're standing out looking on your front porch, kind of write them the steps from there. I want to hear from you on that, but I gotta go. I gotta end it up on composition. If you want to do that, that'd be interesting to me. But obviously, you don't owe me anything. Crit, you mentioned earlier, you could be on one side of the world, call the person on the other side of the globe, and say, "Is the sun where you are? Is it underneath me?" New Zealand and Spain are antipoles. I think AJ, you are in Australia. You said, find the New Zealand and find somebody from Spain. Let's test it. That sounds fun.
Well, of course we would see them. They would say, yes, the sun's overhead. Yeah. I think the point is that what we would state is that the sun is not going around a globe, but, we would just witness the sun pass overhead. When it's directly overhead, it's solar moon. And the sun would move away from our location to another location. But I think what Crit's trying to describe is
I misunderstood.
That we don't see or witness in some instances we do. It appears that the sun is going over some type of physical horizon, but there's also a lot of images and videos that we can show where the sun is not setting over a physical horizon, but just disappearing into the atmosphere itself, based on the fact that we can't see forever. So, but I think, Crit, maybe you can probably answer that a bit better than me, seeing it was your...
Yeah, I mean, you got it. That's going on. The concept is not so much, hey, is there an antipodal or opposite side of a sphere-shaped object? Can the person adjudicate which way is up and down? So when the person in, I don't know, Barcelona, or the few places you listed, do they point, when they point to the sky, the sun, are they pointing up or which way would they point?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Okay, so if there's this like a light on the ceiling, you point up. Yeah. And if you walk backwards, you'll point away from it. Okay. That's what I'm talking about there. At no point would you point below the ground, like through the floor. Like you wouldn't walk far enough away, like down the street. You'll get more and more horizontal, but you'll always be above the ground. That that lamp,
Mhm.
that ceiling fan, will never go over a curve and now be below you.
If it was below, how would we know it? Like we can't see through the ground. I'm wondering, like, I'm not understanding.
Yeah,
I don't think.
I think the point is up for everything based off that flat plane. There's no point when they say, "Hey, where's the sun?" and you would point to the ground and point to your feet. Yeah.
yeah, down and up are going to be the same wherever. Like, think of that guy with the. I don't know if you're familiar with the commercial. He had like a Verizon phone, and he was like walking down the street, and it showed them all with different backdrops, like desert, city, Arctic, on top of a mountain. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? It'd be like walk a few steps, point down. Like in the flat Earth, or in basically reality here, up and down, left and right. These are like cardinal directions. They're going to be exactly the same. Like if someone lives down the street from me, I'm not going to be like, "Hey, walk forward for 100 feet, then start curving to the right, and then continue to walk forward." Okay, you got there. No, it's going to be walk west or east or whatever, or go down the west, like a northbound, southbound road. And you can be straight, a straight line. I'm going right northbound, far as the eye can see. What's above you? The sky. What's below you? The ground. If you ever come to like a break in reality where suddenly like the ground is now up and the sky is down, I'd be like, question that. How did you get there? How did you walk yourself into a worldview where your ups and downs are reversed?
Hmm. I'm wondering, like
Hey, I'm back.
like the result of each one of those. Like,
Oh, because of how I would
if
use the sun. If I was forced in a conversation about how to use the sky, I would use that as up. But generally, yeah, same thing with AJ. If I'm going to have talk about the surface of the Earth, I'll talk about the actual surface of the Earth. I'm not going to invoke everything other than that. Like, here, look at the sun. That's not the surface of the Earth. The surface of the Earth is going to be the surface. And trying to get away from that topic or away from measuring, observing, and using the surface of the Earth will cause like very sort of unintuitive conversations about things like, hey, which way's up, which way's down? Sort of these axiomatic ideas, like, can you have more than one down? Like some people in the globe model will say every person has their own downs. Like if you're right there, standing there, and your down is from the top of your head through your feet all the way to the core of the earth. And someone's standing right next to another person, they have a completely different down. I'm like, on a flat earth, there isn't that. You use one down, there's not multiple downs.
is there
Yeah.
a way
So
we
just to
could?
explain that simpler for you guys, the globe claim would be that down is to the center of the Earth, or the center of mass there at the Earth, the
Mhm.
core.
Can we dig the China?
So, yeah, so let's just say that you were to set up a plumb bob in construction. Do you know what a plumb bob is? It's a string with a weight on it that gives you a vertical.
Mhm.
So the claim would be that over certain distances on the globe, the plumb bob's vertical to the observer to the center of the Earth, which means if we were to have these two plumb bobs, they would at, say, let's just say 30 kilometers apart. They would not be parallel to each other. They would be diverging into the center of the Earth. So what Crit's trying to explain is that on the globe, everybody has their own down. And that would depend on your location on the Earth. You being in America, down would be towards your feet. Me being in Australia, down would be towards my feet. But in reality, we have cardinal directions that are the same for everybody. Up is up, down is down. And that would be based off a plane, not a sphere. That would be as
It's
simple.
think I understand like the different models and what you guys are explaining. I'm just wondering, like, you kind of said, both of you seem to suggest that, we got these cardinal directions that are universal for everybody. And I'm wondering how we would know that's the case. How did we figure that out?
Well, look, I was just still manning what Crit had to say, and we all discuss different topics and in different ways in these rooms. We don't all bring
Of
up
course.
the same topics, but that brings me back to me. For me personally, I would need to see that measured curvature, directly measured drop over distance, and that's something that hasn't been done, and we're told can't be done. Um, that's what I would need to see to say, okay, yep, no worries. Down is to the center of the earth. And yes, we all can have our own up and down according to the core of the earth. But I would need to see, and I suppose this answers composition's question, is there something that would sway me from flat earth? Yes, 100%. Please show me that direct measured drop over distance so that we can actually see this in reality.
I like the
And
Yeah, I
excuse
mean, if you
too
want to
that
friend me up, I
just to
could.
go,
If you want to friend me up, we could always show you that. But before I go, I want to tell you what would convince me. So there's actually a multimillionaire. He claims to be a billionaire. I think he's a millionaire. He's probably lying, but there's a multimillionaire who's actually planning a trip for all the flat Earth proponents to go on, and this trip is to Antarctica. Why? Because they want to witness something called the 24-hour sun. What is the 24-hour sun? It is the visual that you can get of the sun when in Antarctica, when the tilt of the Earth is facing the sun, such that throughout the whole 24 hours of the day, the sun will be above the horizon in the sky. This observation, according to all flat earthers, including the so-called flat earth king, Witsit Gets It, he's told me that that is not expected on a flat earth and that he'd be flabbergasted and that he's not expecting to see a 24-hour sun when he goes on this trip. This millionaire has offered multiple flat earthers this trip. A few of them have agreed to go. If they go over there and the sun is not above the horizon for 24 hours, that would sway me pretty strongly in the direction off the globe. Although I already know what the result is going to be because I've seen videos of it. They claim that the videos are not real, so they're going to go see it for themselves. And I think
Right.
that'll be the death of flat Earth, to
composition.
be honest.
May I just address that quickly? And
Sure.
I'm going to say that I don't believe a 24-hour sun in Antarctica would be globe proof or flat earth proof. And I believe that if you were to throw away your globe model just based on whether or not the sun was seen, I think, if they go down there and they don't see the sun and then you sort of say, hey, this could be evidence, this is flat earth, or this should be happening on a globe, I feel you'd be doing yourself an injustice by throwing it out just based purely off of that. And the reason why I'd say that is that there is a video going around at the moment of the Antarctic sun. Now, when you actually go through the transcript of that, they admit to cutting that video and re-looping that video in their actual transcript themselves. And I believe that just stating, now, I've got to go a little bit further into this. I believe that there's flat earthers like Witsit, and they definitely don't speak for me, yeah? What this is going to, there's flat earthers that will claim some type of model. They'll claim some type of layout. Usually that's a globe projection map or an equidistant map, the AE map, yeah? Now, my issue is I won't claim that map because it's not something that I can verify. It's not something that I can test. And I know that it is a depiction of a globe, yeah? So I can't claim a model, yeah? There's no way that I can claim a model. There's no way that I can verify it. There's no cartographers going out and giving us a flat earth model. There's no verification there. So I believe that just to say in itself that the sun is going to prove or disprove something in Antarctica, one, you would only be proving or disproving individuals' speculations on what that model may be. Now, whether they claim that to be factual or not, it's still a speculation. It's not something they can verify. Secondly, it would be non sequitur due to the fact that we would need to look at a lot more evidence than just what the sun is doing in the sky. Again, my argument always is if we can't see any measured curvature or drop over distance, well, then the sun's doing what it's doing, and we need to revisit that and have another look. Further to that, you would be then claiming correlation equals causation when we know that this isn't always the case. So I would say we'd need a more comprehensive body of evidence than just the sun and what it may be doing in Antarctica, especially if we can't verify these maps or models that have been presented. And I think you would do yourself an injustice either way to come to a solid conclusion just based off that evidence.
I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable taking this off, and I disagree with virtually everything that was said there. I actually think that this is sufficient towards the proposition of determining whether or not the Earth is flat. And the reason why is because all Robotham models of the flat Earth, which is the type of model that you take, meaning a model where the sun is hovering above and not doing some magic where it actually goes under the Earth, which I'm sure is not a model that you take on, right? You take on a Robotham model because that one's probably a lot easier to defend in daily conversation, right?
No, we don't take on.
Oh,
any
you don't
model,
take on a Robotham model?
We don't take on any model. What we're doing is we're giving a description of the surface properties that we can measure and test, not an overall model.
Okay, so which
map.
model do you
I won't
have?
even say model, yeah, because I don't believe the globe has a full working model. Yeah, a model is just not something that we sit on our desk. There's many, many, many hundreds or thousands of models that make up the overarching model. When we look into those individual models, we can see that a lot of them aren't based in science. They're based off philosophical grounds or metaphysics. We know that some just purely don't really work, yeah? So as a flat earther, I'm not going to claim an overarching model and offer a replacement model for the globe. Okay, I believe purely that, falsification is independent of replacement.
Verified
However,
map of any
if
sort?
you're not claiming any model, then you don't claim that the Earth is flat, because saying the Earth is flat
yes,
is
I
in and of
do.
itself a model, right? So that's not going to help you escape this one.
I'm giving you a surface description that we can measure. Yeah, the Earth is measured to be flat.
Right.
It's
And there's
utilized
logical
as flat.
entailments of that surface being flat, and that's the point. So no matter what
Okay.
model you take, even if it's as vague as the surface is flat, that's going to have various entailments on how the objects above are going to operate that will and will not be compatible with that flat surface. For example, the angles of shadows and whatnot, including whether or not the sun will be visible for 24 hours. Now, you actually could construct a flat Earth model in which the sun would be visible for 24 hours in the South Pole,
Okay.
but then you'd have to throw all kinds of other basic observations under the bus, like the sun being visible at all in the North Pole.
How do we
which it
verify
is.
these models? And this is where flat earthers always come back to. How do we verify this in reality? Now, I can verify in
Just by
reality
using
that
deductive logic, that's all.
water finds and seeks level, yeah? So we're not going to give an overall model or a replacement model. We're giving just a description of the surface properties. You don't have to accept
AJ,
that.
you don't need to. That's fine. I agree with it. You don't need to give some. You could say, I'm not sure about these other things. I'm only sure about this one thing, right? That the surface is flat. That's the extent of the model that I have. It's like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
it's just
correct.
that there are entailments from that piece alone. That piece alone is opening up enough lines of attack such that this would actually be incompatible with that model, even if the model is just that. Anything else, I don't know, but just the surface is flat. That alone is what's opening up that angle of attack for Antarctica, which is why a lot of flat earthers are getting really
Get y'all's
up in a
final
twist
words
about it.
in. We're gonna close out, but I'm gonna give you guys a chance to close, make you a little, not have to
Yeah, look,
stop on a thought.
I would say to state that, this is some type of evidence. We would need to know the overall size of the Earth, the shape of the Earth, the overall layout. We'd also have to know how the sun and stars and moon are moving and verify this. And I don't believe that this is required. Yeah, flat Earth can be simply shown by that description of the surface and how we utilize the surface in everyday reality. And I don't have an overarching model. I don't have an overall size. I don't have an overall layout. I don't have anything in that aspect that I can verify. So I wouldn't put that forward as evidence. Now, other flat earthers, such as Dave Weiss or Whitsitt, might say, hey, look, yep, we've got this model, we've got this map. But for me, it's not something that can be verified, and I don't think that we should be claiming a globe projection for the flat Earth map. And that's just where I sit on that topic.
Okay.
Yeah, I
My
would
closing
go-
statement.
Oh.
Oh, sorry. Is someone else going first?
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say to the original question of the chat, I find Flat Earth interesting for this very reason. The dialogue seems to be infinite, just like a procedurally generated dungeon game. I could play that shit for hours, you know? And I just find that very replayable. I find it very new and interesting all the time. And I have a feeling it's going to be around for quite some time. Now, I know that this is not part of a closing statement, but I did want to ask AJ a question. So, AJ, I just want to know if Whitsitt, David Weiss, and even a few others went on this trip and they saw the flat Earth sun and they actually became ex-flat earthers, would this impact you at all? Any answer is acceptable here. Like a yes, no, or I don't know, any of those.
No, because I believe that this is all based on beliefs. I believe that it is actually non sequitur and that we would have to do further investigation into what's occurring. And for me, the solid evidence would be if anyone could show me that direct, measured drop over distance.
So you still
Yeah.
got
And by
just
the
one
way, when
marker on
I
that one.
asked
Okay.
with impact, I was asking like, would it affect you, even if it wouldn't change your view? Would it at least like make you feel a little bit questionable for a second, something like that? Is it just like a no completely, or
No.
maybe like slightly?
No, because being a flat earther, you know, I've been in this now for quite some time, about 15 years, I would say. And look, there are good points that Whitsitt brings up. There are good points that David Weiss bring up. But when they actually start claiming things to be factual, scientific, that can't be shown to be factual or scientific or etc., which I know they bring it up. You know, Whitsitt always talks about ether. Now, ether is a interesting topic. But am I going to run down the path of suggesting that ether is something that is factual and proven? No, because again, like dark energy and dark matter, it's a background medium that's a mathematical construct that we don't interact with. So it's, to me, some of these claims they make, I disagree with, and I try to stick to what we can show factually, what we can measure, what we can prove, other than somehow bringing speculation in as facts. Yeah, that's so. No, it would not affect me in one way or the other. I believe it's a non sequitur to the topic, and that either side is doing themselves an injustice.
Gotcha.
Credit
Oh.
the other person who helped us stay up here. Let's hear your thoughts.
Yeah, how I would use, well, I mean, the final statement here with the final experiment. How final is it, and how much of an experiment is it? So, like, we reference William Duffy, mega church, young Earth creationist, is funding this expedition, and he said he's been talking with Flat Earth now for like 2-3 years. Will this be the end? This should be the end of the line for him. Whatever the result is, it either conclusive or inconclusive. This is supposedly the final experiment, and everyone involved is on board with that. So I'm going to use it to see all these people on his quote unquote scoreboard. After December, we should never hear from them again. This should be the final arbitration, good, bad, or indifferent. And if not, it was kind of like like I said earlier, a bullshit test. What they will not take no for an answer, and they will continue to discuss. I mean, it's like all these anti-flat earthers, like who've done their final anti-flat Earth video 6, 7, 12 times. It's like, at what point I'm more curious to say, inside their worldview, how was final also not final at exactly the same time? How do they do that? How do they walk themselves into a contradiction where they went to Antarctica, saw a flat surface, it's really flat there, and then looked up at the sky, and then walked themselves into a contradiction where final and not final. P equals not P.
Hmm.
So that's pretty much how I'll use it. I don't really care what Witsit will say or what any globalist will say. People can change their mind on a dime. So it's not really that. I've never been really impressed with some of this quote unquote celebrity flat earthers to begin with.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's not like their opinion would matter. I'm just kind of curious the thought process of that William Duffy. Why did he pick certain flat earthers who have said no? I do not want to go. When before he even showed his list of flat earthers, you had people jumping out of the woodwork saying, "I want to go," and he
I hear you,
didn't
Crit.
select them.
I hear you, Crit. I'm not. I gotta go
Oh,
soon.
yeah, I hear you. I know you
I
want to cut it.
apologize. Thank you.
We
Thank
do
you
have-
guys.
Sorry, we do
we're
have
gonna
two more in
to-
the chat.
We're
D-Dan
gonna have
and
him next
DJ.
time, I think.
Yeah,
The,
for next time.
Yeah.
Join us in
Sorry,
the flat
guys.
earth section down below. We can continue the conversation. Are you guys you're going to do an after show, right? After show
Yeah.
today?
On the compassionate epistemology server. Pierce
Oh,
have a
okay.
link for everybody.
I thought maybe you're too tired or just wanted to log out.
Well, I gotta do processing at the end, and then I gotta go to bed. Says I got more stuff to do.
Yeah.
But thanks everybody for coming to the thought process show coming in on streaming on YouTube, Discord, and welcome to the flat Earth flavor of that. You get a glimpse of the world of discussing flat Earth with some different perspectives, and you can see the giant puzzle that I see of trying to figure out how to mend this divide. Like I'm curious of how to.
I don't know that you ever will. This has been something that's been in topic for thousands of years. Yeah, there's always been flat earthers. I think that it's just probably a bit more prominent now that we have the internet and the ability to speak like this. Yeah.
The goal isn't to eliminate flat Earth or round Earth as much as it is to
no.
figure out how we can figure out the truth. So
yeah, no, I understand that.
Process. It's a puzzle to me, and it's like a drug. Like it's kind of like composition was saying earlier. It's forever interesting to me to try to figure out how people figure out stuff. And
but for me, it doesn't affect my relationships with others unless they're going to be a very combative anti. Every time you speak to them, they want to have a crack at you about what you believe. Yeah, but personally, a good dude's a good dude. Yeah. Put it in Australian terms, you're a good bloke, and we can all have our own beliefs, but then there's no need to attack each other over it either. And that's where I stand on it. I mean, I had a really good debate with a Globe guy in here the other night, and I just invited him to my place snowboarding. So nice. I mean, as long as it's respectful and good, I think that's how it should be. Yeah, I don't think there needs to be animosity and hatred between different people and their beliefs, and we have different beliefs in many, many different topics and things in our everyday life. So that's where I stand. Good.
Hell yeah, I agree with all that. Yeah, absolutely. Animosity sucks, man.
It's true.
Bad. All right, so let's wrap her on up. That link I can't post in the chat, but don't worry, you can click on my profile and there's a link to it in there. As after show, so you can click there if anybody wants to join us.
Or it's on our YouTube channels.
Yeah, or you can go there, subscribe while you're there, and then it's in the chat.
I can't access the chat. Is it possible someone copy and paste it into my DMs or something?
Yeah, just click on one of our profiles. Like Pierce's profile has it.
Let me see.
Yeah, my profile has a link there, so we'll have it. With that being said,
after show, is that it?
Yep, that is it. And
okay, cool.
With that being said,
the invite link is invalid or has expired. Try using a different link to join the server.
Just DM me.
All right,
just
goodbye, YouTube.
Yeah, we'll roll that outro.